Welcome. For those who don't know, this is Elder Amoja Ajabu, your host for Ajabu Speaks. This program is dedicated to stripping the clothes off of well-dressed lies. So if you are looking for a well-dressed lie to be pawned off as the truth, then I would suggest that you go listen to Sean Handkerchief Head or his cousin, big brother, Rush Limpballs, because they are experts dressing up lies and pawning them off as the truth, which people accept as the truth. But you will not get that here on this program, because this program is dedicated to the truth. I am the most truthful talk show host in America, and actually in the business. You can't get more truth than what you can get on this program, because I am unbought, unbossed, and unafraid of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the butt naked truth. The program today is going to center around the death of Nipsey Hussle, and it's got to be taken into impact or concern, or we got to explore the financial impact that he was going to have and was having in his escapade of being a rap star. In order to understand the man and his life, I am having to interview Joe Harrison, who is host of What Would Joe Do, and he's got a website, and he gives people financial advice as to how to invest on the stock market, and I want you to welcome you to the show.
All right, thanks, man.
Okay, so what I would like to do first is introduce yourself to the people so that they know who you are, what you do, where they can come in contact with you, and then your interest, we can get into the death and life of Nipsey Hussle.
All right. Well, I'm Joel Harrison. Most people know me by my podcast, What Would Joel Do, and my webpage, whatwouldjoeldo.com. And I'm a full-time day trader. I'm an investor in all assets of the market. I buy stocks. I buy cannabis stocks, cryptocurrency, futures, options, forex, you name it, I invest in it. And I'm self-taught, so I like to teach people. I like to teach newbies. I like to teach advanced traders. But if you want to do it yourself, you can go to my Insider Trading Room on Facebook. If you would like a consultation, you can always book a consultation with me at my webpage. Again, that's whatwouldjoeldo.com. I'm here to give my financial knowledge in buying and selling stocks so that we can empower ourselves.
That's excellent. Now, what I want to get into is that the brother out there in California, Nipsey Hussle, was assassinated here a couple of weeks ago. And I really don't know anything about him. I just saw the buzz and started getting up on him. And then I asked my daughter about it, and she says, well, you were the expert. And so in trying to understand, because it seemed like he was trying to do some things, but there's an aura that's going on around him, and I want you to debrief that. And first of all, what I would like for you to do is just tell people who was Nipsey.
Who was Nipsey? All right, so first off, everybody looked at Nipsey Hussle as just being a gang-affiliated black male. They judged him from what they saw. He grew up in South Central L.A., and you've heard the stories of us out there, joining the gangs. He was part of the Rolling 60s Crips, which is one of the oldest gangs, in LA, actually in America. And he survived it. And to get an idea of who he is, imagine a Jay-Z, Tupac Snoop Dogg all wrapped in one. That kind of explains Nipsey's who Nipsey really was. You know, he was a Crip just like Snoop Dogg. He wanted to empower people with the youth that was around him. He tried to get people to not join the gangs. He wanted people to invest in their neighborhood, which is what he was doing. He owned a couple of strip malls in South Central LA, and he talked about buying cryptocurrency. He talked about buying stocks, and that's what brought the attention to me. You know, I'm older, but I started listening to him, to be honest, when he became Grammy nominated. A lot of people don't know that his last album, he was Grammy nominated. He lost to Cardi B, but a lot of people felt like he should have won. He owns the rights. He owns all his masters, and he tries to teach everybody how to empower themselves and not just buy the gold chains, but to buy the real estate, buy the stock, own the rights to all of your music. And people felt, they had a love for him. He invested in his neighborhoods and he gave back, and he tried to right what he did that was wrong back in the past. And unfortunately, he was killed on his property, which is kind of amazing, from somebody that he actually knew. And that's just something that we as black people got to just start trying to get over, Right. I don't know if it was jealousy. There's some conspiracy theories, but Well,
I want to get into that, but whatever it was, I agree with you that we have got to find a way to resolve our differences. Besides using the ultimate of death, and we're going to have differences, but we can resolve those without that kind of behavior. Now, there's a couple of things that you stated that I wanted to explore just a little further. And you said that the Crips is one of the oldest gangs. What did you call them?
The Rolling 60s.
The Rolling 60s. So how old are they? When were they?
Oh man,
they came about? Do you know?
To be honest, I don't know that offhand, but it is one of the oldest neighborhoods. They call it the Rolling 60s. I imagine that's probably when it was created.
More than likely. And the point that I wanted to make on that is those gangs came out of the Black Panther Party.
Yep.
Because the Black Panther Party was arming itself to defend the neighborhood and things, to make sure that the police wasn't interacting with our people like this person that's interacted with Nipsey. And what the society did was to cut off the head, made the leadership leave the country, killed some of the leadership, and then those youngsters didn't have any guidance. And so the system brought in the drugs, started to doing the divide and conquer. And so now you got the Crips in the blood so that they could be at each other and start talking about whose territory was going to be the dope territory. This is what I control. And so he came up out of that. My question is, all right, he was moving, sounds like in a positive direction.
Definitely was.
But what was the message of his music? And I say that now, you talk about you older. I'm definitely older. And I know some of this rap music that I hear is about killing each other.
Exactly.
Doing harm to women.
He talked about that.
Okay, so tell me, what was he had a message like that?
Yeah, he was more. His message was similar to like early Snoop, early Tupac. Talk about all of the bad things that they encountered. Although I came from this particular thing, this is what I'm doing with my money. This is the type of stuff that I'm buying. So he was really real and he was really transparent, and he accepted who he was, but he also accepted where he was going. And so he said, although I am a nigga and I did these particular things, I'm trying to do right. And if you get on this bandwagon with me, we can all empower ourselves. And that's the message that he tried to convey in his music.
So he started out
Gang banging.
Okay.
May have had a couple of bodies under his.
Okay. But then as he matured,
yes,
and started becoming successful,
yes,
then he changed the message in his music. Because you mentioned Tupac, and one thing that comes to mind with me is he talked about how his mother was a drug addict,
yes,
but how she took care of him, and she was still mama.
Most
and
definitely.
You appreciate it. You understand what I'm saying? So even with the stress and strain that you saw in the music and in the life, there still was a positive message out of that. Mama, I don't care. I do care that you are out there in that game like that. I don't want you in that game like that. But even if you're in that game like that, you still mama, and you're still appreciated. So you're telling me that Nipsey Hussle was moving toward or had moved to a vein like that?
Yes, most definitely.
And then you talk about how that he was a do for self type of guy. He wasn't looking for other people to do for us what we ought to be doing for ourselves. And so he had his own label. Get into that part of him.
So he owned the rights. He owned the masters in the music business. That's like a big thing. Owning your product. You know what I'm saying? That they somebody else can't sell your stuff. And he was big on that. He started in the street with mixtapes. One of his claim to fame is that he created 100 mixtapes and he sold them for $1,000 a piece.
Wow.
And Jay-Z came. And I don't remember how many he bought, but I think Jay-Z bought about 100 or 200 of them for $1,000 a piece.
Wow.
And, because that was his way of saying, I see you. I'm validating you. And that was one of his biggest endorsements in the beginning. And people don't even know this. Even after he died, I don't know what type of business deals he was doing, but Jay-Z set aside $15 million to his family, to his kids, so that they're taken care of.
Wow.
And I don't believe he had to do that, but that's how much respect people had for him. And a lot of his videos, if we always go and rent this and rent that, and a lot of his videos, the clothes that he's wearing are endorsements. He has an endorsement deal with Puma that a lot of people don't know. Puma put their G4 jet in his video and paid for it. So he was all about, endorsing himself. And if I'm going to wear this gear, I better be getting paid for it and not just freely advertising somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, that's smart.
And like I said, when you see him, he stood tall. He stood about 6'4", 6'5". He was a tall, thin individual. So his presence was known when he walked any place. But he was loved by the streets. He was loved by the streets.
So now let me get into this stress and strain, because we were talking earlier, and you was telling me that the guy that they have arrested,
Eric Holder.
Eric Holder. Well, that's an interesting name.
Isn't it?
What the guy, not the Attorney General. Oh, no, Eric, slow down, man. Don't do that to us. But now I can see why they say he was a snitch. He was an informer. Right. Don't take that literally. But Eric, the word was that Eric was a snitch. Okay, and Eric,
that's the streets talking. It's not proven yet.
Okay, but and to my understanding from your sources is that was the conversation that it caused them to have the beef.
Yes.
So say more about that.
So the streets are saying, that Nipsey and this Holder character got into it earlier. It wasn't like it was the first time that he saw him. And there is graphic video that's out there. If you want to go look for it, you can go to tmz.com. And they show the actual video of everything that happened. But they had gotten into it earlier, and the word is that they got in it because Eric Holder was an informant for we don't know what service, whether it's the FBI or whoever. And Nipsey was basically like, look, man, I don't want to be a part of that, or you can't really be seen with me. But they got into a heated exchange earlier that day. Word is that he felt disrespected. He ran home. He got his he got a gun. He didn't get a regular gun. He got a gun that can shoot off a couple of bullets. He had his girlfriend drive him up there in a Chevy Cruze. She parked the car because I guess that was going to be the getaway car. If you watch the video, you'll see him walk up. And let's talk about the property that he was on. Because a lot of people were like, man, if Nipsey was who he was, you know, how come he wasn't strapped, or how come none of his buddies were strapped? Because Eric Holder was able to shoot 3 of them while they were there. If you watch
3 people got shot in this killing.
3 people got shot.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yes.
You know, and so was he using a shotgun or?
It wasn't a shotgun, but it was an automatic, some type of automatic weapon. And if you watch the video, you'll see Eric Holder come down the line, and Nipsey was talking to 2 of his buddies. And a lot of people don't know this about the story. The only reason that Nipsey was even at this particular clothing store, which was Marathon Clothing, which was his clothing store, and he owned that strip. The only reason that he was there was a buddy of his had just gotten out of jail, and he wanted to give him some clothing and help him get on his feet. And he decided to drive out there without his protection. And from my understanding also is that the way, and I don't, you know, you got to look it up yourself, but the way that property is set up is that they give jobs to a lot of convicted individuals, so they can't carry weapons when they're on the particular property. So nobody is ever really strapped.
So that's the reason why nobody was strapped. But he didn't have security at the store?
Nah, because he figured I'm gonna drop in. To be honest, he had just taken a picture, and I don't know if it was his girl or somebody else. He had just taken a picture with somebody, and that picture is circulating too, with somebody probably like 5 minutes before it even happened.
Now I want to divert just a little bit.
What's up?
But we're coming back to that. And you know, I love my children, and this is my son-in-law, and I love how y'all keep me young and get me exposed, because y'all showed me that movie, not but the video. This is America. And what's his name? Childish Gambino. And one of the things that was prominent in that is catch you sleeping now.
Yeah.
Nipsey got caught sleeping or slipping.
Sure did.
You understand what I'm saying?
Sure
and how many more times are we going to? Malcolm X got caught slipping. Martin Luther King got caught slipping. Martin Luther King's mama in the church at the piano got caught slipping.
Tupac and Biggie.
How many? Tupac and Biggie got caught slipping. But how many more times is that going to have to happen?
Right.
To where is that we learn the lesson that actually there is a war being waged against us in this country by some people, and some of those people are using our people to help wage that war, but we can't get caught slipping. And so I wanted to make that point, you know, and then get back to where we are. He was going to have a meeting, to my understanding, with some police officers.
Yes.
Or police department.
Yeah, the force,
Say more about that.
Yeah, the next day, ironically, Nipsey was supposed to have a meeting with the police chief, and everybody knew about this meeting. It was a huge thing, and he wanted to talk about what they can do together to help with the gang violence that was going on in that particular area. And he was going up there with a couple of, high-profile people, and they were going to sit. And,
you know the names who he was going to?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I know it was the police chief, and he's.
But when you say was going up there with, that means it sounded like to me that he was going to take an entourage with him.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely.
But these are people that are high profile on the streets.
Influencers.
Okay. Go ahead.
And he was supposed to be having that meeting 24 hours later. So for him to be killed in the way that he got killed
by a suspected informer. My God, now I don't know if you know Malcolm Nance. But he is an intelligence guy, and he's a talking head for MSNBC, I think. And one time he says the person was asking him about coincidence, and he says coincidence takes a lot of planning. So isn't it a big coincidence that Nipsey comes up dead the day before he's going to have a discussion with the police on how the Crips and the Bloods can downplay the animosities that they have among each other. Now, I would question, why would he talk to the police about that? In my opinion, that's a discussion that should be had between the Crips and the Bloods. If they were going to have a peace deal, why involve the police? Especially if your mindset is, we got to do for self. We got to quit letting others do for us that which we ought to do for self. Interact with that from your position.
I thought about that as well, but
what would be the conversation with the police? If I got connections out here on the streets,
why do I even need?
Why do I need the police? I'm just saying. See, we've got to be careful, especially when we're doing things like that, because anytime you get seen leaning over in the police car,
right?
If I'm out here on the streets, man, what was that conversation?
You're right.
You understand what I'm saying? And just like if I'm taking what you said correctly, just like he was telling the supposed informant, man, I can't be seen with you. You know, people out here thinking that you're an informant, and that ain't what I'm doing. And I can't be seen with you because I'm getting ready to go meet with the police chief.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They might think that you my handler or something, that we on the same team as far as that informant thing. So did he get caught slipping again?
And if you watch the video, you can tell that it was personal. Because in the video, and it's graphic. It's graphic.
Speak it.
If you watch the video, he comes up. Nipsey is with his friends.
Where's Nipsey? Is he standing out on
He's standing outside.
Okay.
And they have some cars between them.
Okay.
And they're just sitting there leaning on the cars, you know, shooting the breeze, talking. And they're still in between the cars. You see him come from the left side of them, kind of behind them. And you can tell that he says something to them. Nipsey turns around, and then all of a sudden, you see 3 people go down. All right. Nipsey then rolls over, and the guy probably runs, because well, I don't say but if I were shooting somebody, I would take my shots, and then I'll back off because I would think that they would have guns. So the guy backed off. Nipsey turns over and says, "You got me, but I'm still good." It pisses him off. So then he comes back from 5 feet away and shoots Nipsey again. Then he backs off. And I don't know after that what happened, but then he goes a 3rd time.
Wow.
And we can't tell if he shoots Nipsey the 3rd time, but he kicks him in the head and runs off. And it's all on video.
Wow.
So it was personal.
So where did this video come from?
You got to ask TMZ that. Oh, it was from the surveillance cameras.
Oh, so there were surveillance cameras in the area.
Yes.
And they were the one. And it had audio?
No audio.
Okay.
The audio came from people that were there that said Nipsey made these comments when this particular thing happened. And I don't know exactly who gave them that information, but that's also on the TMZ site.
Wow. Well, you're listening to Elder Umoja Ajabu and his host, Joe Harrison, who is a host of What Would Joe Do podcast. And he's a very, very eloquent young man and astute with investing on the stock market. And you can find him at
whatwouldjoeldo.com, or you can find me on Facebook at at the What Would Joel Do page, or you can join my trading group, which is Insider Trading. It's all traders that, we are all buying and selling stock all day long and sharing legal information with each other. So you can find me in those two places.
Well, it's important that you said that was
Legal.
Because, actually, he manages some cannabis stock for me. And, now I don't do it. I used to. And in fact, if I tell the truth, I done enough to still be high. But I don't do it today. Don't y'all get out there talking about it. You saw Ajabu. No, Ajabu didn't say that. Ajabu says he tries to make some money off of it. I'm dealing without handling. How about that? But he has become an expert on cannabis stock, and I think eventually it's going to become legal everywhere. In fact, I was just out in California where it is legal, and folks were sitting in cars making smoke. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
I parked real close. No. But I didn't inhale. But if you're interested in getting into the business, then look up Joe on whatwouldjoedo.com. Contact him, and he can guide you accordingly. Now, there's one other thing that I want to explore in these last few minutes that we got, and that's the point of because Nipsey and his friends were felons, that they were not allowed to carry guns. To me,
on that property.
Period.
Oh, right. True.
A felon cannot carry a gun in America, not legally. Okay. Well, concealed anyhow. But the point that I'm making, and that the laws need to be changed, just because you made a mistake,
right?
And now you done paid for that mistake. Why do you have to be vulnerable to your life being taken? Just because you made a mistake. What is the justness in the laws that put that kind of stipulation on a man or a woman that says that you have to make your life open to be taken just because of a mistake that you made in the past? What you think about that?
I'm right there with you. It makes no sense.
No.
You can't defend yourself, like your family.
Right. So, Martin Luther King says some laws are to be not followed. That's what he said from the Memphis jail. When you're talking about not be able to sit at a lunch counter, you don't follow that law.
Right.
You got to turn your head if you're approaching a white person. You're just as much human as anybody else.
Exactly.
So you can look where you want to look,
right,
and say what you want to say, so long as you ain't disrespecting nobody. So I just wanted to make that point because sometimes we got to do our own thinking, and just because it's the law don't mean that we need to follow it, because our enslavement was the law. I ain't following that. Joel, I want to thank you for being my guest.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
Yes, we'll have to do it again.
Yes,
we'll have
definitely.
To come back. You've been listening to Elder Emoja Ajabu, your host for Ajabu Speaks. This program is dedicated to stripping the clothes off of well-dressed lies. On this program, we share the truth from what we know surrounding the death of Nipsey Hussle. We also share the truth that if you ain't investing, then you ain't making the money that you ought to be made. You are listening to the most truthful talk show host in the business. Unbought, unbossed, and unafraid of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the butt naked truth.